China's quest for oil in the South China Sea began in Beibu Gulf in the southwestern area of the country. This region is expected to produce up to 3,500 tons of crude oil per day when trial development begins in 1986. This well in Yingge near Hainan Island is capable of producing 1.8 million cubic meters of natural gas per day. The oil field is exploited jointly by China and the U.S.-based Atlantic Richfield Corporation. They've already discovered a similar high-yield natural gas well last year. At present, only the western section of the South China Sea has yielded oil and gas discoveries. The entire offshore oil field extends over an area of 3.6 million square kilometers, 17 times the size of Guangdong province. For administrative purposes, the entire region is divided into two parts. The eastern part is based in Guangzhou, while the western half is based in Zhangjiang. At present, the western part shows promising signs of oil and gas discoveries. In its quest for oil, China works closely with foreign oil companies. The semi-submersible drilling rig is one of the largest of its kind, brought in by the U.S.-based Arco China Corporation for oil exploration offshore. Towed here from Hong Kong in March this year, it replaces the Java Sea, sunk in October 1983. The semi-submersible rig is especially adaptable to the rough waters of the South China Sea. With 36,000 tons of displacement, the rig carries a deck load of 4,500 tons. In August this year, a well capable of producing 1.8 million cubic meters of natural gas was found. A TVB News crew witnessed the whole process of well testing aboard a rig over a 5-day period. Most of the drilling work is carried out on the rig floor by 4 expatriates and 4 Chinese staff. There are usually 100 staff on board. About 30 of them are Chinese, while the rest are expatriates from the U.S., Canada, Australia, the United Kingdom, Singapore, and India. The staff work non-stop in 2 shifts, and the shifts run from noon to midnight to noon. Englishman Marty Ford is the senior tool pusher. He's been working on the rig since March this year. Before China, Ford had worked in the United Kingdom, the U.S., and Canada. The working environment reminds him of a small United Nations with a mixture of different nationalities. His biggest problem is the language barrier between him and the Chinese crew. He has to rely on interpreters to pass the messages. At present, all supervisory posts on the rig are held by expatriates, but these posts will eventually be taken over by the Chinese. After hectic preparatory work the previous night, the crew members have successfully inserted the drilling pipes. At this critical stage, the geologists join in to test the well. The pressure level and each test result is carefully recorded. The records will be useful for evaluating the potential amount of natural gas in the well. This well proved to be capable of producing 1.8 million cubic meters of natural gas. As a senior tool pusher, Ford is responsible for the analysis of information obtained from well testing. In addition, he has to help provide on-the-job training for the Chinese crew, since the contract stipulates that foreign oil companies have an obligation to train staff.
answer the first question.
This is one of the classes ARCO organizes for the Chinese crew. A film with Chinese narration is shown. Then questions are asked to test comprehension. As an incentive to encourage study, awards are given to students with good results. Fieldwork is an important element of the training program, and for the Chinese crew, the most interesting aspect. The Chinese crew members are eager to take over the drilling work in a few years' time, but they believe that even then, expatriates will still play an important role. The head canteen chefs are all recruited from Hong Kong. In addition to breakfast, lunch, and supper, a snack is provided every 2 hours as late as 1 o'clock in the morning. Because of the language barrier and the lack of common interests, the Chinese crew seldom eat with the expatriates. After supper, many who are off duty go to the movie room to watch American movies. Even though not subtitled, the Chinese are eager to have a glimpse of foreign cultures, normally out of their reach. Research efforts made in the 70s have shown that the South China Sea area is rich in resources. If the findings are correct, this area is likely to become another Persian Gulf. The prediction has attracted 102 applicants from 33 oil companies. The contracts stipulate that all exploration costs be borne solely by the foreign oil companies. Only after oil is found will expenses be shared by China and the oil companies. Efforts have been undertaken on land as on sea in Zhanjiang. Next, Zhanjiang's rise as an oil base. Zhanjiang, a deep-water port in southwest China, is one of the 14 cities chosen to be open to foreign participation. Before it was chosen as the support base of the Nanhai West Oil Corporation in 1973, Zhanjiang was an agricultural town. Farmers objected to having their farmlands bought up for development. However, they were not able to change the course of modernization. Terminals have been specially built to harbor ships of tens of thousands of tons displacement. Living facilities have also sprung up. In just a few years, several 100,000 square meters of office and staff quarters have been constructed. The fast physical development ran parallel with a great influx of staff and their families and money. The development program has proved to be of benefit even to those farmers who initially objected to it. Zhanjiang is now in a position to facilitate China's open door policy. The man on the left is Wang Yan, general manager of the Nanhai West Oil Corporation. He's the key to the remarkable development of Zhanjiang. In addition to building up the support base, his most important task is to find oil. If he doesn't, the enormous development expenses will financially burden the government. Wang Yan is, however, very optimistic about the venture.
在南海石油这个蕴藏量是远景是非常好的。我们对外合作仅才开始几年，你像在北部湾跟法国这个淘特这个合作区，就打了很多有价值的油井，而且准备开发一个103这样一个油田了。 在海南岛英格海那边，在阿克工区的话，也找到了大的气田。就随着勘探的发展呢，这个形势是越来越好的。
Wang Yan is concerned about Zhanjiang's development. He often checks up on the progress of the city. To promote the welfare of his staff, he's opened shops to provide goods imported from all over China. Wang Yan understands that these supplies will boost the morale and the work efficiency of his staff. Some of the goods available in the shop are not found in other shops in Zhangjiang because they've been ordered directly from the manufacturer by the Nanhai West Oil Corporation. These clothes, imported from Shanghai, are an example. In addition to the shops, the support base also has its own schools, courts, a public security bureau, and all the trappings of a city. For these reasons, some people refer to Wang Yan as a mayor. Wang Yan demonstrates a concern for his staff. While the base shop is a free enterprise operation, Wang Yan does not allow it to raise prices anytime it wants. As the general manager of the Nanhai West Oil Corporation, Wang Yan meets various department heads regularly to review progress. At present, there are 8 countries involved in the joint venture under different terms. Under the differing arrangements, either 51% of the shares go to China during the development stage, or all of the initial exploration costs are borne by the foreign companies. The joint ventures are monitored by a joint management committee. This is a meeting of the Joint Management Committee, or JMC. The manager of the JMC is always a Chinese appointee, while the deputy manager is appointed by the foreign delegation.
Geographical map showing where shot points are.
The final decision always rests with the Chinese, and thus China underlines what it considers to be its leading role and absolute authority over oil exploration in its own territory. At this meeting, the American representative asserted that the British oil company had agreed to exchange maps on the 2 oil fields. The Chinese insisted that this was not possible, and as a result, the information swap could not be made.
Before any foreign company, they will participate in the second invitation or bidding. ARCO's data cannot be provided to other foreign companies without the consent of the Chinese side.
Well, okay. I have my letter here that says that approval has been given.
我为什么这么说了？这样是，我为什么这么说？就是作为ARCO，用不着是研究珠山挖线的情况，用不着带着珠山挖线的资料去研究珠山挖线的情况。如果珠山挖线要进行招标，ARCO要想在那里招标，那个时候是可以给你资料的。
At the end of each meeting, the 2 sides exchange minutes of the previous meeting. ARCO General Manager Lee Wilson explains the role foreign oil companies play in China.
The Chinese have a lot of experience in drilling wells and exploring, but it's been primarily on land. Offshore is much more expensive and requires more technical expertise. So I think the Chinese are looking to the foreign oil companies to provide this risk capital and the expertise to drill these offshore wells and look for oil and gas. Now, once it's found, the Chinese, of course, intend to come back in and help finance the development, but they will not have to take this early risk then of exploring, which will be done primarily at the expense of the foreign oil contractor.
China has undertaken to provide accommodation for the expatriates working in Zhangjiang. These self-contained Spanish-style villas are built to provide similar living standards to those the expatriates enjoy in their home country. The living area contains 34 villas, a swimming pool, a bar, and a supermarket and clinic. Monsieur Housset manages the expat compound. Up at 6 in the morning, He braces himself for the day ahead with a stiff cup of espresso coffee. It only takes 5 minutes bicycling to reach his office. When he first came to China 2 years ago, Husset felt as if he were working and living in the pastoral countryside of France, his homeland. As the manager, Husset takes care of the quarters occupied by the senior staff of the French-owned Total Shin Corporation and a few officers from an American company. He gets help with his day-to-day tasks from an official interpreter. The name of the area is the 4th Living Quarters, but it's come to be known as the Total Village, and Monsieur Husset, the village chief. After Monsieur Husset has gone to work, his wife usually goes to aerobic dance classes with the other workers' wives. After aerobics, Madame Husset prepares the meals for the day. The supermarket is for the benefit of the expatriates. Some of the goods on sale here are imported duty-free from France, so that the expatriates can enjoy some of their home cuisine. Madame Husset buys most of her daily necessities from the supermarket, and all the purchases she makes are charged to her account, and only credit cards are accepted. When Madame Husset wants to buy fresh vegetables, she goes to the free market by cycle. Sometimes she takes her 11-year-old son along so that he can get to know the Chinese way of life. The free market is the result of recent economic reforms introduced in China. A variety of food is available here, and even though Madame Husset does not speak Putonghua, that doesn't stop her from going to the market. While making her purchase, her son walks around with his camera to take some pictures, recording his experiences on foreign soil. As few expatriates go to the free market, Madame Husset becomes the center of attention. But Madame Husset doesn't mind because she feels this is one of the best ways to get to know China. After lunch, Madame Husset sees her youngest daughter off to the nearby school. The school was open for the expatriate children, and most of the children attend.
Ah, tu faisais la tournée avec le friteur des rôtisseurs de Gascogne. Bah oui.
The teachers have been recruited from France to teach the children in French. With their husbands at work and the older children at school, the wives are free to spend their afternoons lounging around the swimming pool. Madame Husset is a regular visitor. As comfortable as it appears, she feels that life in China is not as colorful as that in Paris.
In Paris, when I'm in the house, it's not different, but I can go out more often and go to the cinema, to the theater, to the museums, and do a lot of things which I cannot do here.
So do you find that life here is quite boring?
It's not boring, but it's different.
How is it different?
Well, I don't do the same thing. Instead of going out, I go to the swimming pool, I go playing tennis, I'm playing with my children to do their work because my boy has no school here.
When Monsieur Husset returns from work, he usually plays cards with his children, and Madame Husset will sometimes join in. Everything in the house is provided by the company. A small sum of money is deducted from the salaries of the staff to pay for rent and utilities. A central television system is installed to play pre-recorded programs from Japan. To improve understanding between the Chinese staff and expatriates, Nanhai West Oil Corporation often organizes cultural and recreational activities such as table tennis competitions. Earlier this year, they organized a trip to Guilin to give the expatriates a chance to see other parts of China. James Dunlap works as a teacher in Zhanjiang. He's been hired to teach English because the foreign contractors are obliged to provide English classes for the Chinese staff. Before coming to Zhanjiang, Dunlap taught for 1 year in Harbin. Able to speak Putonghua, Dunlap communicates directly with the Chinese.
啊，莫名其妙，这个我以前没看过。你看，啊，所以一共有5个项目。好，这个我问他一下。我问他一下，我看看。In such a short history. Well, if you go there, you'll get.
Dunlap not only teaches English in his classes, but through the choice of teaching materials, he's instilled foreign cultures into his students as well. In this lesson, he discusses the American way of life with the Chinese students. He also encourages them to talk about the kinds of problems they would encounter when furthering their studies in the U.S. This member of the Chinese staff believes that apart from feeling homesick, he'll experience a culture shock. Dunlap believes that the Chinese students, in their eagerness to learn English, not only pick up a different language, but they also absorb some of the culture of a foreign nation.
When you learn a language, you get the possibility of meeting people that speak that language. And right now, China is going into a phase where it's open to the rest of the world. This is being encouraged to some extent by the leadership, but there's sort of a schizophrenia right now in China. There's a struggle going on for the soul of China, is how I like to think of it. And the young people, particularly, well, at least the young people that I meet, the well-educated young people in the cities, they are very anxious to learn everything that they can possibly know about the West, including the so-called spiritual pollution that the older conservative people in China are so afraid of. And the older people, you know, the ruling group in China now sort of feels that we want the science and technology, we want the good things that will help to make China rich and so forth, but we want to keep the rest of it out. There's nobody almost in the older generation who really wants to completely open China. But I think, and a lot of the young people of China, I think also are thinking this way, that it won't be possible to separate the two.
While expatriates may not have much contact with the Chinese staff, they often get together with employees recruited from Hong Kong. The Hong Kong workers are often invited on launch cruises organized by the expatriates during the holidays. Lazing on the beach, the foreign workers watch local fishermen at work. This may be one of the scenes they remember from their stay in China. Coming up, how the Hong Kong employees work and live in Zhanjiang. The bar is one of the facilities at the Total Village. It's a favorite hangout for many expatriates and Hong Kong employees. As Hong Kong employees speak English, they can communicate with the other expatriates. At present, there are over 40 Hong Kong employees working in Zhanjiang as secretaries, interpreters, or teachers. Office hours in Zhanjiang begin at 7 in the morning. Eva Chen is getting ready for work. She worked for an American oil company as a secretary. Her office is just a few minutes' ride from her hotel room. As Chan works in a branch office of the oil company headquartered in Guangzhou, only a skeleton staff is employed. 2 workers from Hong Kong handle all the secretarial work in the office. Sometimes they have to liaise with the Chinese, and a working knowledge of Putonghua is a must in their job. This is the restaurant at the Nanhai Guest House where most of the expatriates and Hong Kong staff have their meals. As well as free room and board, the Hong Kong staff in Zhanjiang enjoy a salary that's twice or 3 times as much as they can make in Hong Kong. Some of them are even exempt from paying Hong Kong taxes. The terms and conditions of employment are a major attraction. That's not the only reason why Chan Kwok Sing came to work in Zhanjiang a year ago. He now works for an American company as an interpreter. He was a fire services inspector before coming to Zhanjiang. He says that work in Zhanjiang is very challenging because the multinational and multi-million-dollar oil business is unknown in Hong Kong. During days off, the lady secretaries from Hong Kong usually visit other parts of Zhanjiang to sightsee. They ride to the pier and cross over to the other side of Zhanjiang to shop for local goods. Crossing the harbor here is quite different from Hong Kong. For one thing, there's a single pier, and sometimes you may find yourself at the end of an alarmingly long line of cars. Once on board the ferry, passengers must get out of the car once the car went over the edge with a full load of passengers inside. Today, these women are going to the free market to buy food for tonight's dinner party. They use the time crossing the harbor to discuss preparations for the party. They usually do their shopping at the Dongfeng Free Market. Sometimes they buy local products as souvenirs for their friends and relatives in Hong Kong. When shopping in China, they employ their bargaining skills learned at home. These women are not frequent visitors to the market. Back in Hong Kong, they leave the shopping with their mothers. They're here this time to get some pork and some winter melon to make soup for tonight's party. Their dress and their behavior often attracts the attention of the local people. But since more and more Hong Kong people visit the market these days, most locals have become used to their presence. And the Hong Kong employees say they've adjusted to the way of life in Zhanjiang. Fortunately, the local people understand Cantonese, so they can roam around without fear of a language problem. The informal dinner party was held in the house of an expatriate who'd been away on leave. The Hong Kong staff took the opportunity to practice their cooking.
Cindy, you're a big star now. You appear twice on the TV.
After dinner, the TVB crew entertained the guests, showing them the film shot earlier in the day.
咁一般嚟講咧，香港人咧嚟呢度做啦，喺三類工作啦，係嘛？
During the viewing, we asked some of them why they had chosen to work in Zhanjiang. After 2 weeks of following the Hong Kong-recruited oil support staff, we wanted to know what they saw as the major benefit of working in China.
咁你初初點解會諗住上嚟湛江做嘢？
儲錢咯，即係最主要諗住就儲唔儲到依家，我唔話你知。所以嗰啲都應該就係主要嗰陣時都係一來為錢啦，希望就見多啲嘢啦。咁其實你上嚟中國有個好處嘅，你第1997，即係呢個好敏感嘅問題啦，依家。咁但係如果你係上咗嚟，你就俾人先一步睇咗中國依家現時個環境點，起碼你心中有數，但係我可唔可以適應到咁嘅生活咧？即係有陣時你喺香港睇嗰個層面唔同咗，咁你嚟到呢度你同啲外國人講，咁佢哋睇嘅嘢亦都比你深入好多。咁佢講翻俾你聽嘅時候，反而你喺香港你未必睇到你自己嗰個形勢同埋個處境係點，但喺人哋嘅口裏頭就話咗俾你聽。咁而同一時期，如果你係同啲中國人、本地人你去交手嘅時候，你亦都明白到自己個身份應該企喺邊度。
本地人同香港人喺度接觸多唔多咧？
我諗你睇做咩工作啦，譬如我好多啦，我教書嘅咁陳國星嗰啲有好多啦，佢哋做翻譯嘅，秘書小姐咧就比較少啲啦。
佢叫我中國通啦，其實唔知係咪啊嚇？即係佢好會拉我哋中間人嘅。
即係呢個就係香港人喺呢度嘅嗰個公用啊。
因為佢好少話直接同佢哋嗰啲外國人。
因為海濱喎，
外國人接觸嘅，譬如有啲好緊要，即係要開會嗰啲咧，佢就會直接嚟傾，我哋用翻譯咁嚇。咁譬如有啲一般嘅事情咧，佢通過電話啊，通過同我哋會談啊，咁然之後反映翻俾外國人嗰方面，通常都係咁樣做法，反映翻嚇。
Some of them say that another advantage of working in Zhanjiang is that they can have more time by themselves. They can do whatever they like without interruptions.
咁我呢度咧就係即係可以有好多時間睇書，有好多時間同我啲同事討論啊咁樣，即係好難得嘅呢個係真係唱歌啊咁樣。
其實喺呢度有陣時真係好過喺香港。
咁對於個就係有家庭嘅嚟講啦。通常有咗家庭嘅人就會停止生長，真係嘅。智力上啊，體能上乜都係。咁我呢度發覺入嚟咧就好，咁好有一點都真係好好發覺到就係有好多時間自己用。翻到香港嘅時候咧就全心全意差唔多有呢個咧就係特登翻屋企啦咁樣。
你死啊！你老婆幾多之後？
老婆唔嬲啊！
Adi Kwok, who's worked in Zhanjiang for more than 3.5 years, feels she has the choice to lead a busy social life or live as quietly as she pleases. When she wants to have some quiet moments, she'll lock herself in a room to do some studying. For her, this is a privilege of working in Zhanjiang.
係一個生活嘅體驗咯，因為當你一個人係離開咗家庭啊，咁一個人走嚟湛江啊，即係人生路不熟啊，人都唔識多隻嘅時候。你要完全面對一個新嘅環境，咁就一切所有個人事上嘅難題啊，或者你工作上啊好多嘢你都要係完全咧係自己獨立去面對，咁咪可以訓練下你個人啦，獨立嘅能力啦。咁樣就其他嘅咧就又可以睇下我哋偉大嘅祖國係點樣嘅啦。咁仲有可以儲到啲錢啦，就係咁。
Zhanjiang is often hit by typhoons. On the night before the TVB crew left Zhanjiang, a typhoon struck. Rooms in the hotel started leaking, and residents had to move their belongings elsewhere. For safety reasons, the hotel management cut off the electricity supply. But that didn't deter the guests from enjoying their own company. In addition to the Hong Kong workers in Zhenjiang, Hong Kong itself is starting to develop a role as a backup base, providing re-export services of goods and equipment. The services are necessary because Zhenjiang has a lot of problems still to overcome. Coming up, problems in Zhenjiang's development. This is the headquarters of the Nanhai West Oil Corporation. Housed here is the Exploration and Development Scientific Research Institute. Rock specimens acquired from drilling are brought here for analysis. The long black pieces of rock are core rocks. Half of them are delivered to the Chinese side for examination, while the other half goes to the laboratories of the foreign companies. The geological structure is tested for its oil potential. Some of the grit is broken down into tiny pieces. Researchers at the Institute will then divide it into two heaps. Sand likely to contain oil will be weighed and put into an envelope for further study. As stipulated by the contract, the Chinese and the foreign companies divide the rock specimens and work on them separately. When the analysis is completed, findings are submitted to the management of the Institute for further planning. At present, the foreign companies do not have much confidence in the research conducted by the Institute. Thus, the Institute is now trying its best to build up its credibility. This important task is assigned to Zhang Qiming, manager of the Institute. Zhang feels that the South China Sea oil fields are a battleground for intense technological competition between China and the rest of the world. The Institute is divided into many sections, all concerned with research on the oil resources in the South China Sea. As head of the Institute, Zhang inspects the laboratories regularly to check on progress. Zhang says that the most important job is to find oil and to provide their managers with the necessary data for future planning. In addition, they also conduct research for foreign oil companies. The foreign oil companies didn't have much confidence in them at first. The packaging of the reports was not impressive. Some companies believed that the Chinese Research Institute's relatively lower service charges meant poor quality research. Zhang now feels that the misunderstanding has yet to be cleared up.
但是呢，有的外国公司以为我水平低，而这个价格低，其实不然，因为我根本没想这个搞这个商业性的这个活动，我只是为了前面两个目的，一个是提高队伍的水平，还有这个在南海找到油，所以我规定的价格很低。 我为了锻炼我的队伍，结果他们有个误解，所以今后我想这个提高价钱，在服务方面我要提高价钱，因为我的质量很好的，是得到他们公认的。
The computer research results at the Institute has already won some recognition. An American oil company assigned a job to the Institute and at the same time asked another research company in Asia to analyze the same data. The Institute's findings were more significant than its Asian counterpart. Zhang is still not satisfied with the accomplishments of the Institute. He's planning to further improve the equipment by bringing in foreign capital and expertise. Sophisticated computer equipment needs to be updated to keep pace with the rapid progress of the oil industry. Moreover, Zhang plans to improve the award system to provide his researchers with greater incentive. At present, more than half of his 860 researchers are university graduates or specially trained personnel. Zhang has set up an overseas study plan for advanced level degree programs and short-term research assignments. In addition, he's also changed the bonus scheme. No limit is set on the amount of bonus each researcher can receive. Only those involved in the project are entitled to share the bonus, and researchers achieving outstanding results will be promoted. As manager of the Institute, Zhang is driven to and from work every day, evidence that the status of the professional or intellectual in China is returning to respectability. Along with other senior staff members, Zhang lives in a two-story building, complete with front and backyard. His monthly rent is 6 yuan. As a senior geologist, his monthly salary, including bonuses, is 170 yuan a month. That's about $85 US.
Tonight on VOA, you can hear The Making of a Nation in specially...
Zhang listens to the Voice of America's special English program every evening at 9 o'clock to improve his English. English has been made a working language of the Oil Development Project in China, in addition to Chinese.
The broadcast said the communist leaders also approved a declaration calling for peace and international economic...
Zhang also wants his staff to improve their English.
Now what's the opposite of close? Open. Good. Very good. Sit down, please.
He started 2 English classes, one in grammar and the other for oral conversation. The workers' grasp of the language still leaves much to be desired, but they show an eagerness to learn. The command of English means a better opportunity for overseas training. Researcher Dong Wei Liang hopes that the grasp of a foreign language will allow him to contribute to the modernization of his country. Age 27, Dong has been working at the Institute since 1982. Before university, he worked in a village for 2 years. Then he became interested in the oil industry and joined the Research Institute. As Dong is still single, he's been assigned to the single staff quarters not far from the Institute. Dong eats all his meals at the canteen attached to the quarters. The meals cost him 1 yuan a day, including working and cost of living allowances and a bonus of 20 yuan. He earns about 110 yuan per month. That's about $55 US. He agrees with the system, giving the more diligent researchers larger bonuses than the less assiduous. He'd like improvements in his living conditions, such as limiting the number of roommates to 2 per room to allow for more time to study. Dong Zhang, however, is facing a serious housing problem. Single staff like Dong Wei Liang are given staff quarters. Newly married staff are less fortunate. They have to stay in temporary housing units, waiting for proper flats. As well, hotel rooms for expatriate staff are in limited supply. Apart from housing, there is an urgent need to improve the communication facilities. In a fast-moving industry working closely with outside contacts, an efficient communication network is vitally important. At present, long-distance telephone calls to Guangzhou and Hong Kong take hours. The backward system is a major headache for every expatriate working in Zhangjiang. The Nanhai West Oil Corporation has made the modernization of communication facilities a top priority project. A new communication headquarters is being constructed under the supervision of the general manager of Nanhai West Oil, Wang Yan. The new facilities will include radio telephone service for both land and sea using microwave and satellite links. The project costs about 15 million yuan and should be ready by November. The principal means of transport into and out of Zhanjiang is by plane. It's no less of a problem than communications. On leave, foreign workers fly to Guangzhou in one of the Russian-made twin props. Flights are often canceled because of inclement weather. Wang Yan says the airport will be extended and developed into an all-weather international airport with direct flights to Hong Kong and to Shenzhen. Wang claims that the government attaches great importance to the extension project and will try to complete it by the end of the year. The ferry pier is a third problem area. While most expatriate staff work in Po Tao, some of them have been assigned hotel rooms in Chi Kan across the harbor. They cross the harbor by ferry every day, and at times the wait to cross takes up to 2 hours. The authorities plan to build another pier so that passengers and vehicles can cross the harbor separately. A coastal highway is also being planned. Zhanjiang's shortcomings reflect China's inexperience with mega projects. At present, it's still too early to estimate the economic impact of oil exploration, since few commercially viable wells have been found. As the experts say, finding oil depends 50% on luck and 50% on technological know-how. China's quest for oil in the South China Sea already has the foreign oil company know-how. What it needs now is more luck in its pursuit of an oil rush.